Calm, composed, mature male voice, building tension gradually. My name is Alex Monroe. I'm 38 years old. I work in IT security and live in Denver, Colorado. For someone who spends his career helping companies prevent data loss, you'd think I'd be better at spotting when my own life was being stolen, piece by piece. But nothing in a textbook or software manual prepares you for the day you walk into your own home and find that it no longer belongs to you. That day started like any other. I had just gotten back from a 3-day consulting trip in Dallas. I was tired, hungry, and honestly, just looking forward to crashing on my couch and watching a mindless movie. I swiped my keycard, pushed open the front door, and froze. The living room was empty. No couch. No rug. No TV. The walls were bare. The shelves were gone. Even the curtains were missing. At first, I thought I'd been robbed. But then I walked further in and realized the entire apartment had been gutted room by room. The bedroom? Cleared out. My clothes? My shoes? Gone. Bathroom cabinet? Empty. Kitchen? Not even a spoon left in the drawer. Every item that made this place feel like mine had vanished. Except one thing. Mounted high in the corner of the living room, still blinking, was the security camera I'd installed just 6 months ago. And that was her mistake. She took everything, but forgot the one thing that watches everything. I walked over to my laptop, powered it on, and accessed the camera feed. The footage had automatically uploaded to the cloud, motion-triggered, time-stamped, high definition. And as I sat there in the middle of my stripped-down apartment, watching what those cameras had captured while I was gone, I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I just stared and pressed play. What I saw on that footage didn't just break my heart. It changed everything I thought I knew about her and about myself. This is the story of how the woman I trusted the most tried to erase me from my own life, and how the one thing she overlooked exposed every lie she ever told. I met Riley 6 years ago at a startup networking event in Boulder. She stood out, not because she was loud or flashy, but because she had that kind of effortless confidence people try to fake on social media, but she wore it like a second skin. She was an interior designer, recently launched her own freelance brand, and spoke about colors, textures, and space like it was a language I never knew existed. I was the quiet, analytical guy in the corner, blue button-down, plain watch, talking server firewalls over drinks. She came up to me first, asked what I did. When I told her I worked in IT security, she smiled and said, "So, you're the guy who sees everything before it breaks. I like that." We went on our first date that weekend. It turned into 2, then 5. And within 3 months, she was spending more nights at my place than her own. Riley had this energy, like she was always moving forward. She had a Pinterest board for everything: dream kitchen, dream wedding, dream office, even what our future dog's name would be. Cinnamon, in case you're wondering. I'll admit it, I fell hard. And fast. By month 6, we'd officially moved in together. We found a cozy 2-bedroom apartment on the edge of downtown Denver. Not too flashy, but just enough space to feel like a start. She offered to design the entire place herself. Said it would be her gift to us. At first, it felt perfect. She picked colors I would never have chosen: soft neutrals, warm wood tones. Everything felt like a magazine spread. She handled the furniture orders, the layout, even the artwork. I was in awe. And honestly, I felt lucky. I'd never dated someone who made life feel that organized, that intentional. And maybe that's why I didn't notice the signs. Maybe I didn't want to. There were little things at first, like how she'd always insist on putting big purchases under her name for credit score purposes, or how she never liked me checking the shared budgeting app she made us download, always said I'd ruin the surprise of things she was planning. Then there were the weekends she started taking trips, client installs, in Aspen, Vail, even Los Angeles. She'd come back with designer bags she claimed were gifts from vendors. Sometimes there were receipts. Most times there weren't. But I ignored it, because when we were together, she still looked at me like I was her anchor. She called me her safe space, said I was the calm she never knew she needed. And that meant everything to me. I even started talking about marriage. Not openly, but in my head, I was planning. I started saving more aggressively, even looking at rings. Softer tone, wistful. One night, while we were eating takeout on the balcony, she leaned her head on my shoulder and whispered, "Do you ever think we'll have a place that's really ours? Like forever?" I told her, "I already do." She smiled, kissed my cheek, and said, "You're the only person I trust enough to build a life with." It was one of the last real moments we ever had. I didn't know it then, but I was already living with a stranger. The woman I thought was building a life with me was already planning to disappear from it. And I didn't see it coming. She used to send me updates on the apartment layout. Now, she was using that same layout to strip it clean, piece by piece. And I wouldn't realize just how calculated it all was until the day I found the cameras blinking. I wish I could tell you there was one big moment that woke me up, but that's not how it happened. It was slow, subtle, like a leak behind the walls you don't notice until the ceiling caves in. At first, it was just little things. Riley stopped texting me good morning. Our conversations became shorter. She was busy more often than not. Some nights, she'd stay out late for client meetings and come back smelling like hotel soap, her makeup freshly redone, but she'd act like nothing was off. I didn't want to seem insecure, so I said nothing. But I started watching. Quietly. One evening, she left her laptop open. I glanced at it, not snooping, just instinct. There was a PayPal transaction for $4,200. The note said, "Final payment, staging set complete." I asked her about it. She laughed and said it was for a client's luxury loft project. "It's all reimbursed," she said. "You wouldn't understand the design world." But that wasn't the only charge. Over the next few weeks, our shared credit cards started showing withdrawals I didn't recognize. Large ones. A $900 hotel stay in Aspen. $600 dinner in LA, $2,100 vendor advance through Zelle. When I asked, she always had an answer. Too quick, too polished. And I always let it go. Until one night. It was 2:07 a.m. I couldn't sleep. I reached over for my phone and saw the screen on her nightstand glow. A notification. I couldn't see the message, just the name. JT. I'd never heard of JT. She stirred, pulled the phone to her chest, turned over, and pretended to stay asleep. But her breathing had changed. Shallow. Stressed. That's when I knew something wasn't right. But I still didn't confront her. Instead, I started planning. The next day, I upgraded the apartment's Wi-Fi and connected our security system to a cloud-based backup, one I controlled. I didn't tell her. I repositioned the hallway camera, made sure it had a clear view of the front door, the living room, and the entry to the bedroom. I checked the memory settings, enabled motion detection, set the recordings to silent. No indicator lights. She thought the cameras were just for package thefts. She didn't realize they had audio, or night vision, or that I could watch everything in real time from my laptop at work. And that's when I really started seeing her. Most days, she wasn't working at all. She'd leave dressed for a client meeting, only to come back 45 minutes later with wine, snacks, and a different outfit. Sometimes alone. Sometimes not. I saw a man enter once. Not tall. Dark jacket. Ball cap low over his face. She introduced him to our dog. Laughed at his jokes. Poured him wine from the same bottle we'd opened together the night before. She never mentioned him to me. And I never asked. But with every clip, every minute of footage, I felt something inside me go cold. It wasn't just betrayal. It was strategy. She wasn't impulsive. She was patient. Calculated. She wasn't falling out of love. She was removing pieces of me, one drawer at a time. She started packing boxes. Slowly. Systematically. First, the storage closet. Then the guest room. Then my books. For better organizing. Always with an excuse. I'm making space. We need a refresh. It's time to declutter. What she was really doing was preparing for extraction. And I said nothing. Not because I was weak, but because I needed time. Proof. Clarity. I remember sitting alone in my office one night, reviewing a timestamped clip of her wrapping up my late mother's ceramic vase, the one heirloom I'd told her never to touch. She handled it like it meant nothing. Tossed it into a cardboard box and scribbled, "Donate" on the side. That was the moment something snapped in me. But I didn't scream. I didn't rage. I smiled. Because now, I knew exactly who I was dealing with. And I knew something she didn't. While she was busy stealing my things, she'd left me the one weapon I needed, the truth. And it was all recorded. The day I knew, not just suspected, but knew, was a Thursday. Riley had told me she'd be out late, meeting a client at a staging site across town. I told her to take care, packed her a protein bar, and kissed her goodbye. She smiled, said she loved me, then walked out the door wearing the same leather jacket I'd gifted her for her birthday. As soon as the door clicked shut, I opened my laptop. I'd gotten into the habit of monitoring the cameras quietly, especially when she was working. But that night, what I saw didn't just confirm what I feared. It shattered something permanent. She wasn't across town. She wasn't at a staging site. She was back inside the apartment, just 20 minutes later, with a different man. This time, I saw his face clearly. No hat. No disguise. They walked in laughing. She tossed her jacket on the same couch we used to fall asleep on watching movies. He wrapped his arm around her like he'd done it 100 times before. They opened wine. Then Riley did something I'll never forget. She walked over to my desk, my workspace, picked up my framed army photo, and turned it face down. As if I didn't exist. They toasted. And then, she opened a storage bin I didn't even know she'd packed, pulled out my old football jerseys, and told him, "He won't care. I'm getting rid of it all this weekend." I didn't blink. I didn't move. I just sat there, watching, absorbing. My hands were ice. My mouth was dry. But my mind? Clearer than it had ever been. She wasn't just cheating. She wasn't just stealing. She was erasing me, methodically, shamelessly, as if I had been some temporary inconvenience in the way of her next chapter. I watched until they left. Then I watched again. And again. Rewound the footage. Captured every second. labeled each clip. No rage. No breakdown. Just strategy. That night, I didn't sleep. I didn't even lie down. I just sat in front of my computer, headphones on, scanning through weeks of footage like it was a mission briefing. I documented timestamps, created folders, built a case. Quiet, focused, because something in me had changed. I wasn't the heartbroken boyfriend anymore. I was the man behind the lens, the one with proof and patience and nothing left to lose. She had no idea what I knew, and that was going to be her biggest mistake. The very next morning, I started laying the groundwork. I knew I couldn't confront her. Not yet. Not until every piece was in place. Because Riley wasn't just a liar. She was confident, reckless, entitled. And people like that? They only fall hard when they never see it coming. So, I began with the most boring part, documentation. I pulled our shared credit card statements for the past 18 months. Every charge I didn't recognize, I flagged. Created a spreadsheet, matched them against dates and times from the security footage. Paused every frame where she walked in carrying something new. Wine bottles, boxes, designer bags. Timestamp. Label. Archive. I called the customer support teams for each major purchase. Got receipts, tracked delivery addresses, matched names on file. Most of them were under her name. A few, like the TV and the custom couch, were under both. That mattered. Then came the legal prep. I called a friend from my Army days, now a divorce and cohabitation attorney in Colorado Springs. Told him I wasn't married, but I had a situation. He agreed to meet me the same day. I showed up with a USB stick, a thick folder, and one question. Can I make her pay for what she did legally? He watched just 10 minutes of the footage, then looked up and said, Absolutely. If anything, you've got a stronger case because you're not married. You can go full civil. That day, we began drafting a property theft claim, a civil asset recovery complaint, and, if needed, a restraining order template ready to be filed. But it didn't stop there. I logged into the back end of all our shared accounts. The utilities, the Netflix, the bank. I started separating, moving my direct deposits to a new account, changing passwords, setting up alerts. Every change was small, silent, invisible. Meanwhile, at home, I played dumb. I smiled. I made dinner. I asked how her day went. I even bought flowers. And Riley? She didn't suspect a thing. If anything, she got bolder. She started packing more boxes, claiming she was decluttering for a new season. I told her I appreciated it. I even offered to help carry them to the car. She laughed and said, You're so good to me. The same night, I watched on camera as she FaceTimed that same guy, JT, from our bedroom. My bed? My sheets? She told him. He's a total doormat. I'll be out of here soon. He won't even fight me on it. I screen recorded the entire call. Zoomed in on her smirk. Then came the bank move. I waited for her to be out, a real client appointment this time, and went to our branch downtown. I requested a full history of our joint savings account. She'd withdrawn $17,800 over the last 4 months. Quietly, in chunks of $2,000 to $3,000. Each time labeled design expenses. I asked the banker a simple question. If she took that money and never paid it back, what happens? He paused, then said, Well, unless there's a written agreement, that could be considered theft. especially if you can show she used it for personal gain and not joint expenses. Perfect. Because I had video, transactions, emails, even audio, all proving it had nothing to do with shared goals, and everything to do with running off with someone else. I added it all to the case file. Then I did one last thing. I reached out to a handful of Riley's recent clients. Not as myself, but anonymously, through a burner Gmail. I forwarded them clips of her laughing about upcharging dumb rich couples, and admitting she reused designs from Pinterest to bill for custom work. 2 of them responded. One said they'd be canceling their contract. Another mentioned potential fraud charges. The empire she thought she was building? It had cracks she couldn't even see. And still, I said nothing. I waited. Because timing was everything. I picked the day she was planning to go visit her sister in Chicago. She thought she'd be gone for 5 days. Thought she'd come back to find the rest of her stuff packed up and my goodbye note on the counter. What she didn't know was that her 5-day trip was about to turn into a one-way exit. She left on a Friday morning, pulled her suitcase down the hallway like it was just another trip, kissed me on the cheek, told me she'd be back Wednesday. "Love you," she said, like nothing was about to collapse. I watched from the window as her Uber pulled away. 30 minutes later, I began. First stop, my attorney's office. We printed and signed everything: the theft complaint, the civil asset claim, the formal evidence package. I'd already compiled over 40 hours of timestamped security footage, screenshots, text records, and financial documentation. Within 24 hours, the case was filed. Then came the second strike. I contacted our property manager, informed him that I would be removing Riley from the lease, citing property theft and cohabitant fraud. I forwarded him the legal documents and police report number. His response? "She's been rude to our staff since move-in. Consider it done. Her access will be revoked by Tuesday." Perfect. But the best part was Monday. That morning, I scheduled a meeting with Riley at a local coffee shop, made it sound like I wanted to talk about our future. She agreed instantly. What she didn't know was that I wouldn't be alone. When she walked in, confident, made up, phone in hand, she found me sitting at the back table with my lawyer. I slid a manila folder across the table. She laughed. "What's this? Some breakup paperwork?" I didn't smile. My lawyer spoke calmly. "You've been served. Civil theft, unauthorized asset transfer, fraud. Here are your itemized charges and footage timestamps. You have 72 hours to respond or we escalate to full prosecution." She didn't laugh after that. She flipped through the photos. Screenshots of her bringing the man into our apartment, pulling my mother's heirloom off the shelf, saying on camera, "He won't fight this. He's too soft." Her face drained. The confidence disappeared. She tried to argue, blamed me, accused me of violating her privacy. My lawyer cut her off. Every camera was legal in a shared space and connected to the apartment Wi-Fi you signed for. You took everything, but left the one thing that recorded your lies. Then I added calmly, "And just so you know, your client saw the footage too. Check your inbox." She stormed out, but it was too late. That same afternoon, I got an email from a designer showroom she worked with. "Thanks for the heads up. We're cutting ties with Riley immediately." Another message followed. One of her past clients was filing a complaint. Apparently, she reused the same design in 3 homes, overcharged all of them. Her brand? Collapsing. Her reputation? On fire. And I hadn't raised my voice once. 3 days later, a final package arrived at my door. A box. Inside it were some of the stolen items. A few clothes, my army plaques, and the broken ceramic vase my mother gave me. No note. No apology. Just guilt. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Because by then, the revenge was complete. The police didn't arrest her. It wasn't criminal-level theft. But the civil suit went through. She was court-ordered to pay back $14,750 in damages, plus $3,200 in legal costs. She tried to fight it. Lost. When she didn't pay on time, her wages were garnished. Slowly. Month after month. And that man she left me for? He didn't stick around. Once the lawsuit started rolling in, he vanished. Just like she did. I never saw Riley again after the coffee shop. But I still remember the look in her eyes when she realized I wasn't broken. I was prepared. She thought she could walk all over me. She thought I'd never fight back. She thought she took everything. She didn't realize. She left the one thing that mattered. The truth. It's been almost a year now. I live in a new apartment, smaller, simpler, quieter. No designer furniture. No Pinterest walls. Just clean space, natural light, and furniture I picked out myself. The place isn't fancy, but it feels mine. There are no boxes packed in the corners. No late-night whispers in the hallway. No second-guessing whether the person next to me is lying with every breath they take. It's peaceful. The cameras? Still there. Not because I expect another betrayal, but because they remind me of the day I finally stopped being blind. After everything that happened, people ask me, "Don't you wish you confronted her sooner?" Maybe. But if I had, I wouldn't have had the proof. I wouldn't have had control. And I wouldn't have won. Because in the end, this wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming myself. That apartment was never just a place we lived. It was where I cooked her birthday dinners. Where I dreamed about proposing. Where I built a future I thought was real. She tried to gut that space like it was a hotel room. Something temporary. Something disposable. But what she didn't know was that while she was stealing furniture, I was building a firewall. She underestimated me because I was quiet, calm, patient. She thought silence meant weakness, but it meant I was listening, learning, preparing. And when the time came, I didn't scream. I simply pressed play. Now, I work with a small group of veterans helping them protect their homes from scams and shady cohabitation breakups. I help them install surveillance systems, backup logs, legal prep. Because if it happened to me, it's probably happening to someone else. Not everyone fights with fists. Some of us fight with facts. Sometimes, I still get random emails from old contacts of hers. People who saw the footage, heard the audio, pieced together the lies. They ask me how I stayed so calm. I tell them the truth. Because I knew she took everything, except my soul. And from that, I rebuilt. Not for her. Not even for revenge. But for me. Soft CDA moment. Narrator voice slows. If this story hit home for you, or if you've ever had someone try to erase you from your own life, just know this. You're not alone. You're not broken. And you're not finished. Thanks for listening. If you've been through something like this, drop a comment below. Your story might help someone else finally press play.